Chapter 13. And I was like, who's this man? Who is this man? Why would a man be there? Why would a man be there? Is this a children's story? Because why is the dragon called Sparky? I'm sorry. Hello. April was not the best reading month for me, but I did read 2 books. I read 1 physical book and I listened to 1 audiobook, which is my first time. That's a lie. I was gonna say it's my first time listening to an audiobook, but I just remembered that I did actually listen to Britney Spears' autobiography. Whenever it came out, I remember it was on Spotify and I listened to it then. So I have actually listened to an audiobook all the way through before. But that was kind of different because it was a biography. I feel like that's different. I quite like listening to them as an audiobook. It feels a lot more heart to it, especially when they read it themselves. However, this was my first time listening to an audiobook that was a fictional story, so that was quite interesting. I'm unsure how I feel about it. So I rated the book 3 stars and it was Bella Mackie's How to Kill Your Family. I can't make up my mind if it was the flow of the book itself, the pacing of it, that was the problem, because I struggled sometimes with just the different, we're jumping from this point to this point. Our main character is a girl called Grace. The book starts with her in prison. She claims that she's in there for a crime she didn't commit. However, she has committed many crimes. She's committed several murders at this point when the book starts. And she's not in prison for those because they don't know about them. She's actually in prison for a crime she didn't commit. And she starts by basically writing her own story, her own biography while she's in there. So the book kind of jumps back and forward between, it's her telling her story, but it jumps between narrating each point from this is what happened on the lead up to this kill, this is what happened on the lead up to this kill. So she starts off by killing her paternal grandparents, her uncle, her cousin, her half, like it goes down through the ranks of all the people from her father's side of the family who she kills. The reason for doing so is because she was the product of an affair between her mother and her father. Her mum had moved over to London to become a model. She was from France and she got swept up into the Artemis family by this man, Simon Artemis, and he showered her with gifts and love, and she fell head over heels, but he was already married and he had no intention of leaving his wife. In the end, he ended things with Grace's mum, and he's being a little pain. Would you? What are you doing? You misbehaving? Are you misbehaving? Grace's mum finds out she's pregnant, decides to keep the baby, is hoping that Simon will change his mind and run away and be with her. He doesn't. Later on down the line, I think her name's Maria, finds out she has cancer and she writes to him again, unbeknownst to Grace, saying, I'm dying, please, I know you don't want anything to do with us, but please, can you look after our daughter? Simon replies and is basically like, no, this was your choice to have her. She has nothing to do with me. So upon finding all this out, Grace finds it out after her mother's death when she's going through some things. Grace is outraged and decides to get revenge, and her plan is to kill the entire Artemis family, who are very, very, very wealthy. Kill them all and inherit the fortune because she will be the last living family member, essentially. So she goes through the ranks, she kills her grandparents, she kills her cousin, she kills her uncle, she kills her, I'll call it her stepmom, but Simon's wife and Simon's other daughter, Bryony. So she kills 6 people, and they're all she does it so cleverly, is that a word? She does it in a way that every single one looks like an accident. She spaces them out so that there's no suspicion. And so the book jumps between her talking about prison life and then telling you, this is how I planned this murder, this is how I did this is how I inserted myself into the lives of all these people, and this is how I killed them. I enjoyed it. I did really enjoy it. It took me a minute to get into the audiobook just because of the formatting of just listening to it. I was quite quick at forgetting names, so she would mention names and I'm like, who's this again? So that was one thing with not, I feel like reading makes me take things in more. I definitely found that there were times especially if I was doing other things, that I realised I'd zoned out and was like, I have not got a clue what we were just talking about. I would have to backtrack. I definitely found it a lot harder to retain information because I'm like hearing it rather than having it written down. It's easier if something's written down and I'm reading it, that it sticks in my brain. But I got over that quite quickly and I actually got into it and I listened to it quite a lot. So I would listen to it when I was doing long drives. I would listen to it for a couple of hours here and there at night rather than listen to music. I would put it on when I was doing tasks like cleaning. And I quite enjoyed it because I found that way it was better than reading, because reading takes up time and you're just sitting there and all you're doing is reading. Whereas if I was listening to an audiobook, I could do other things. So like I say, I could do housework, I could do whatever else I wanted. And it was quite nice that I could multitask. And for the most part, I found that I didn't get too distracted and I never would forget like what was happening. One of the issues I had, and obviously this is something that I feel like I definitely would have hated if I had a physical copy of the book, was the length of the chapters. There was hardly any chapters in this book. I want to say off my top of my head, there was like 15 chapters. They were lengthy. Some of those chapters, as like narrated on Spotify, were 50 minutes long. I was like, what? I was like, if I was thinking I'll listen to a wee chapter or two while I'm doing stuff, tell me why some of the chapters were 50 minutes long. They were a slog. And if I was reading a book, I am very much if I'm reading, I'm like let me just read until the end of this chapter. And then I'll be like, let me see, like I've just finished a chapter. Let me see quickly how long this chapter is, and I might read another one before I go to bed. And if I had this book, this would have killed me. It would have killed me. Oh no, I hate long chapters so much. Sometimes I get it if there's stuff going on and you're bunging out information, just get it, just go through it. I'll take it. I'll take a long chapter. But otherwise, no long chapters, please. Too much. It was too much. I was reading reviews when I was putting in my dates and my not my review, my rating on Goodreads, and there were people that were like, the length of the chapters was unreal. So I'm glad I wasn't actually reading a physical copy of this book. I don't know why the chapters were so long. It makes no sense at all. I think we did genuinely have like a chapter per person that she killed, and I really didn't need that. Like, break the chapters up. It's fine. It doesn't just need to be straight through. It can be. The characters were okay. I did quite like the main character of Grace. It took me a minute to get into her, but I do like those characters that are a little bit twisted. They're not like, I'm not gonna say she's not normal, but like, you know, that way that they're a lot edgier, they're quite dark. She thought nothing against killing all these people. I found her quite cold. She didn't really like to get involved with people. I quite liked her. I actually didn't mind her. I liked her a lot. Other characters in the book were obviously just so unlikable. All the rich characters were so unlikable. There is a lot of undertones about, say, the likes of the patriarchy and the rich and different things. And there were times that the book did go on and on and on and on and on a bit about society, different things in life, and I didn't mind it. I know, like, it is one of those things, there was a few reviews that said like it went on and on and on too much, there was too much, it was too much this, too much that. I didn't mind it all that much, possibly because I was listening to it as an audiobook. Maybe if I was reading it, I might have zoned out a little bit. I'm one of those people that I'm like, there's so much of this in real life already. I just don't like hearing about it even more in books, but it is also good that it's in fiction. Like, I feel like we do need these things. I was enjoying this book the majority of the way through. I don't think I would have rated it 5 stars just because it wasn't perfect for me, but I might have. However, the thing that I think in the end I rated this book 3 stars was because the ending. I will put up a spoiler warning because I'm gonna tell you the ending, and I'll put up a time frame of when you can skip to. I was so frustrated when, so our character, she killed 6 people from her family. She was accidentally imprisoned for a crime she didn't commit. I won't go in any detail about that. And I can't even remember, because this was where sometimes it got a little bit choppy. I couldn't quite, because there's so much going on, the way the pacing of it went, there were times that I was like, wait, is this before you killed this person? Is this before that? So at some point, I don't remember when, her father, the one she's most excited to kill, she's saving him for last. She doesn't get the chance before going into prison, and then he is then killed by someone else. So right at the very end, when we know that she's got an appeal, it is before, oh, it's a bit, this is why I say the pacing kind of confused me a little bit. Before she went into prison for the crime she didn't commit, her father was killed. So she was a bit deflated because she was like, all my planning, all my work, and he ended up lost at sea. And it turns out, we find out towards the end, because she appeals, there's camera footage that helps her to become released from, or helps her case, helps her appeal. She gets released from prison, and she gets an email from a guy claiming to be her brother. Now we get this told from his perspective, so that I got the fright of my life when I was listening to this book, and all of a sudden it went to chapter whatever. At this rate, it would probably only be chapter 7 because of the length of the chapters. And it was like, you don't know me, Grace, but I'm your half brother. And it was like, because the voice started when it was like, chapter 13. And I was like, who's this man? Who is this man? Why would a man be there? Why would a man be there? This boy pipes up, and it goes into this whole thing of how, as well, he found out he was also the child of an affair. He found out that that the man he thought was his father was not his father. It was actually Simon. His adoptive father died. There was a whole thing. He got in touch with Simon. They ended up having a relationship without trying to have a relationship. He went to him basically being like, I don't want to have a relationship with you, but I do want your money to help my family. And in the end, I think Simon must have admired that from him, and probably the fact that it was a boy and he had a daughter and another illegitimate daughter. He must have been happy to have a son. They ended up spending time together. There was a whole saga with them, and in the end, this boy Harry is there when Simon dies, and it turns out that he ended up killing him. And he writes to Grace, and he knows everything that Grace has been doing because he found out about Grace through, no, I can't remember how he found out about Grace, through Simon. I think Simon admits to him that there's another one. There's another one. He then is able to find Grace, and he's been watching her from afar, and he then starts to see, he's there some of the times that she's killed people because he keeps following her. So he knows what she's been doing, he knows, or he thinks he knows what she's planning, and then obviously she goes to prison. It becomes this whole thing, and in the end, he then kills Simon, and he then also writes to her, and he's like, I've killed him, and now I'm inheriting all the Artemis money, so thank you very much for that. If you try to come forward, I've got all this proof or knowledge that you killed all these people. I know this, I know that. You can't speak up about me. I won't speak up about you. So we're like, I doubt we'll ever meet. Take care, Grace. And I was just like, what the actual fuck? Because what do you mean? What do you mean? I have been rooting for Grace this whole time. I love a girl who murders. Like, murder your family. They were all absolute shitheads. The world is a better place without them. Kill them all, I say. Kill them all. And this man... I'm such a feminist. This man comes along and kills the one person she was most excited to kill. And oh my god, and I really wanted the whole reveal of, it was me all along. I've killed all your family. I want Cersei to know it was me. That kind of... this man comes along, and I can't even remember what. I think I must have fully tuned out because Grace was just a bit like, huh, well, shit. And the book ends. I can't tell if there's going to be a second book. I want there to be a second book so she can go after Harry and kill him and take his money, because that can't be the ending. That's so aggravating. That's so annoying. Why would you do this? Maybe it was because it was supposed to be she was the villain all along because she was killing people, but it really pissed me off. It pissed me off so much, and it ruined it for me completely. The ending was terrible, so I rated it 3 stars because it really pissed me off. It pissed me off so much. I was raging. So raging that now I'm listening to another audiobook by the same girl. It is called, what's it called? What a Way to Go. Is it What a Way to Go? I think that might be the name of it. But it's another really rich family, and he's a knob, but he's been killed and his family's all acting suspicious, and there's a character that's sleuthing. It's great. It's not really great, but I'm getting through it. So that was How to Kill Your Family. Terrible ending. I don't know what the author was trying to do. It wasn't a plot twist. It didn't make me happy. It made me annoyed. And sometimes we get endings in books where we're like, it's not a happy ending, but then there usually is a slight but actually it is a happy ending because I got the last laugh. I'm so pissed off. I'm so pissed. I'm so pissed. So I gave it 3 stars because, what do you mean? Also, the chapter lengths were too long, and I think I mostly enjoyed it more because it was an audiobook. I think if I was actually reading it as a physical book, I might not have enjoyed it the same, but I enjoyed it as an audiobook, like having the story told to me. So 3 stars for that, because why would a man be there? Honestly. Next up, the second and final book that I read was another low rating. I think I started off giving it 3 stars, but I've rolled it down to 2. And that is The Baby Dragon Cafe by A.T. Qureshi. I really wanted to read this book. I was like, this is going to be cozy fantasy, and I cannot wait. Like, I want to read more fantasy books, and I thought a cute cozy fantasy story might be just the thing I need. This book was not great. Why did I round it down to 2 stars? I don't know. I think the main thing that pissed me off the most about it was, so the whole premise is our main character, Sophia, runs a baby dragon cafe, which was a dream of hers. She's always wanted to own a dragon, but only people from dragon families can own dragons. So she does the next best thing she can think of, and she wants to own a baby dragon cafe. Her grandmother passes away and leaves her money, which she then uses to open the cafe. From this, she meets a boy called Aiden, who recently his brother passed away and left him a dragon egg. He didn't really want it, but it was the last sort of connection to his brother, and he was like, my brother left this for me. His parents hatched the egg, which pissed him off, and he's now got a baby dragon, which he doesn't want to give it away because, like I say, it's his brother left it to him. And he has this baby dragon called Sparky. Is this a children's story? Because why is the dragon called Sparky? I'm sorry. Sparky is a very naughty little dragon. Drago. And one night, Saphira and Aiden bump into each other, and Saphira is basically just, you be my little model, yes. Oh, you're such a sweet little Drago. You're just the cutest little baby boy. And because have I traumatized you? I'm so sorry, Picago. Because she is good with him, Aiden decides, you can train him. And Saphira is like, huh? So Saphira is offered money to train this baby dragon for Aiden. And it is one of those things of, she needs the money because she's finding that she's struggling with the cafe. It does okay, but it's not turning a profit. She's struggling, she can't hire staff. Then the espresso machine gets damaged by a baby dragon, so she needs to repair it. She's struggling to pay the mortgage. She's worried she would have to close. So the extra money from him, as per usual, he's a rich man, and he's like, I will pay you $2,000 per lesson to train this baby dragon. And she agrees. From there, a friendship blossoms, between Saphira and Aiden, which of course develops into yearning, a bit of angst. We get chapters told from both their perspectives, which I found to be a little bit disappointing because I am not the biggest romance fan. I want to get more into it, I really do. But I think for me, it has to be one-sided. I think I do. I know I do like both. I know I do. I don't necessarily like it if both sides are just yearning after each other and they're both like, oh, but I don't think he likes me. I don't think she likes me. And I'm just sitting in the middle like, I know you both like each other. Just bang. Like, let's just kiss. Just kiss. There was so much build up, so much of that. And I was just getting a bit bored of it in the end, to be perfectly honest. Like, I feel like I do like it. I like to write about it myself. A bit of that yearning, a bit of that, like I do, and I want to read more romances. I really, really do. I want to push myself and try. I want to love. But it got a little bit boring at times because Aiden would find reasons not to be with her and she'd find reasons not to be with him. They'd never act on their feelings, but they'd sit and everyone around them was like, you like her a lot, you like him, you really like him. The biggest issue I had with this book, and I read a review that really hit the nail on the head, that the baby dragons, and just dragons in general in this book, are treated like dogs, like puppies. The one thing that really pissed me off the most was that Saphira is supposed to be training this baby dragon for Aiden, and she's treating him like not even a puppy, because she would be telling him to do stuff. Like if he was getting a little bit, he would throw these tantrums and she would be like, no, Sparky Poo, don't do that. Don't do that, my boy. Oh, my beautiful darling boy. The way I speak to the cat, and I'm not even telling him off when I'm doing these things. Like sometimes I do speak to him like he's a baby and he definitely hates me for it. But that's more of like in an endearing way. She's supposed to be training him and telling him off. It's like when they tell you things like, if you're telling off a dog, you shouldn't use their name because they associate their name with praise. And also like how you need to be firm with them. You like a firm tone. Like you don't need to yell at them, but have a firm tone. I'm not a dog trainer, so I could be talking out my arse. But I just feel like, considering she was meant to be training him, and you're like, this is a mythical creature. I feel like recently we have had so many tales with dragons in them. So you have like Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon are probably the big ones at the moment. I know there's like this Fourth Wing series. I've not read them, but I can imagine the dragons in these stories being big and majestic and beautiful, but can you train a dragon? How to train your dragon? Even that, could you imagine Hiccup in that story being like, no Toothless, no Tippy Poo, don't do that. I was like, you're supposed to be and in front of Aiden too, who's like, if I was him and I was watching this, I'd be like, what am I paying you for? And the worst thing is, we're supposed to believe that the dragon actually like obeyed her because she was all, no, Sparky Poo. It pissed me off. That part read like a children's story where it's like, this little baby dragon's getting into mischief. No, Sparky, don't do that. It literally would read like a children's story. But then you've got your main characters wanting to bang. I didn't like the actual dragons in this. Definitely that review that said, the fact as well that she was calling them dragos, like instead of doggos, it was very chronically online. It really bugged me because that part of it was like, oh no. It was like a children's story and I just didn't like that at all. But then it is supposed to be for adults. And I wouldn't even say this is really fantasy at all. Like I don't know what I was hoping for with this whole like cozy fantasy idea. Like I obviously realized very quickly like, okay, well, the fact even it was the cafe, I was like, this is obviously set in modern times. It's just the fantasy element is that there's dragons, which is fine. But it made me realize that actually, you know what? I don't think I like fantasy that's set in modern times, because everything else about this was literally just your normal modern settings. There was phones, there's cars, but also there's dragons. And there's mentions of other mythical creatures like phoenixes, griffins, chimeras, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, and yet none of them were here. Like, we saw none of them. There was a lot of mentioning of poachers and like baby dragons and dragons themselves being like captured and kidnapped by poachers so that people could illegally sell them on the black market. Genuinely, it was mentioned so many times. I thought that's what the halfway or the 3/4, I don't know what the wording is for that, but do you know that point when you're like 3/4 of the way into a story and there's always that moment, there's always that thing that happens that's like, oh shit, oh shit, and then it's all resolved in the end. Genuinely thought the baby dragon was going to get captured and it was going to either tear our two apart or bring them closer together. That didn't happen. For the most part, nothing really much happened in this book. We were just following them in their daily lives, and they gradually yearned a little bit more and more for each other. Then they got to the point where it was time for the baby dragon to do his first flight, and that ended up being a little bit of a dramatic moment. We had a fake marriage trope moment going on then that I kind of enjoyed, and then it was kind of over. And then the moment that was our sort of like our end finale dramatic moment wasn't even like dramatic at all. And then they all lived happily ever after. There was just so many times as well that Saphira really pissed me off when it came to the dragon. I liked Saphira as a character. I liked her and Aiden together when they got together, or even when they were slightly yearning after each other when they weren't boring me. But the way she was with the dragon, the way she was with Sparky, and the way she carried on and calling him like my dragon, my baby and all that, in front of other people, when other people were then like, you are not from the dragon families, this is not your dragon. Also, apparently it's a bit uncommon for people to get a trainer to train their dragons, so that was also weird. But it was the fact she kept going on and on about him like my dragon. She went for one of his vet appointments when he went for his first jags. How the hell are you gonna get a needle that's gonna pierce those scales? And she left the room to take a call, and then they wouldn't let her back in the room because they were like, do you have your dragon ID? No, you're not on the name of this. Who are you really? But then thankfully Aiden came along and saved the day and she got back into the room. But it was the way she was like, I'm here for Sparky, like he's my dragon. No, he's not your dragon. It was a bit stupid. It was a little bit silly. And yeah, I can't get over the fact that basically replace dragons with dogs in this story and there's nothing fantasy about it, because there was nothing fantasy about this at all. I feel like throwing in a mythical creature into a day-to-day life doesn't necessarily make something fantasy. It's like, it's even like movies like that Aquamarine, where she's a mermaid but she comes onto land. You wouldn't call that like fantasy. Any other kind of story that's just because there's a fantasy creature there doesn't necessarily make the whole story fantasy. I think I would have loved a lot more of a fantasy element to this. Not even, like, it doesn't even need to be magic. Like, magic doesn't need to exist. But it just kind of, it missed the mark for me a little bit. I ended up rating it 2 stars just because I feel like it was a bit of a slog to get through. I was excited when I first started it. It turned into a bit of a slog. I hated the way Saphira was speaking to the dragons like it was a freaking chihuahua or a teeny tiny little puppy and a kitten. It just wasn't for me at all. And it was slightly disappointing, so I ended up just giving it 2 stars. I might round it back up to 3, which was my initial rating. I don't even know what I would recommend this for. Yeah, there's a bit of a fake marriage, but it's not like fake marriage, fake dating, but it's very brief. And again, you have like the one bed trope, but again, very, very brief. There's dragons in it, but that's it. There's nothing else about this that's fantasy. Is it cozy? It's not. It is probably a love story. It is quite sweet. There's just a lot of them just yearning back and forward for each other. I wasn't overly a fan of how the characters interacted with each other. So for example, this is why, again, it felt like a children's story. Every time our main character was with her best friend who worked with her, so it wasn't like she saw her once in a blue moon. Every time she was with her best friend who literally worked with her, say one of them would finish for the day, they would hug. I had to dash off to go training with Aiden, what was her name? I can't remember what her name was. But like, I gave her a hug on my way out. And it's like, Why are we always hugging? I sound so cold. Maybe people are like that in real life, but it was the way it was always like huggy, huggy, huggy. There was a boy called Theo. Now I know the next book, there's a new book coming out this year called The Baby Dragon Bakery, which is the story of Theo. And right, what was her name? The fact as well, all the baby dragons had, I'm interrupting myself while I do this, but the baby dragons had such boring names. So the best one in the beginning was we had a Viper, we had Thorn, we had Flare, and then we had Sparky. Sparky was the worst one. And then there was another one called Torch. That also reads like a children's book to me. Because these are very basic names. Like, I feel like not Hiccup, he wasn't called Hiccup. I feel like Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon, obviously that is a kid's movie. Adults can enjoy it too. I do love them. Toothless was quite a fun name. I can't remember what any of the other dragons were called from that series. I don't actually know, but that's for like kids, for teens, for like young people. It's for young children. It's for the youngers. So those kind of names are quite sweet. In adult fantasy, like Game of Thrones, you have Drogon. And there's Drogon. What are the names? I don't remember the Game of Thrones dragons. What were the three of them called? Don't know. And I know that there were the House of the Dragon ones. Now I don't know all their names. I know there was there Vagar, Melees. I haven't seen House of the Dragon, so that's my excuse. I just feel like adult fantasy, the dragons have cool names. I don't know what the fourth wing dragons are called, but I'm going to assume they have cool names. And if they don't, then that's shit. But I just feel like in fantasy, dragons have cool names. Like, they're great beings. They're mythical. You're gonna name it something cool than just Sparky. I don't find her name at all. Lavinia? I have not got a clue how to pronounce this character's name. But there was a guy called Theo who would come along to deliver goods from the bakery, which is going to be in the next book, The Baby Dragon Bakery. Every morning he would come along with baked goods, and every time he came, she would like give him a hug and a kiss on the cheek. But he actually is friends with her friend. I think her name's like Lavinia is how it's spelled. Or, I mean, this is how it's spelled. I don't know how to pronounce it. Lavina. I'm terrible with pronunciations. Their story is going to be in the Baby Dragon Bakery. I don't know what that's going to be like. They're friends in this one, but it's very obvious that they fancy each other. But just the way, like, as I say, the way Theo would come in and she'd give him a hug and a kiss. And it's like, well, obviously it's Lavina is going to be his love interest in the next book. But it was just, that was also very like children's story of, oh, come, hug, which I've got nothing against hugging and kissing and all that. But it just feels very like fake. Nobody comes to my work to deliver stuff and we're all, oh, happy, huggy. No, like it just doesn't happen. It was all very, like, it was just a bit weird. It was all just a bit weird. I don't know, there are going to be people that absolutely love this book, that maybe it does cater to them, but it just did not hit the mark for me. It wasn't what I was expecting. I hated the way she treated the baby dragons like they were children, like they were babies, and it was so stupid. It's like she was the kind of pet owner that I don't like, where it's like her dog is her child, and it's like you forget that it's a creature, like it's an animal. It's not a human, it's an animal. Like, I feel like animals can have sort of human characteristic type things. If it's like your dog loves to sleep with the blanket over them kind of thing. But for the most part, an animal is an animal. It's not a human. It's not going to respond to you if you're like, Sparky, don't do that. Pick that up and take it over there. That's not how you train an animal. Like, here, you take this, no, you take it over there, like you would to a child. It was so silly. So I didn't like that aspect of it. I didn't like much about it. This video is already so long after me talking about 2 bloody books. but I suppose it was basically reviews of both of them. So there we go. So that was everything I read in April. Only 2 books. Both of them a bit of a letdown. It was the ending for How to Kill Your Family that ruined it, and it was kind of just a bit of everything for this book that didn't quite hit the mark for me. So I gave this 2 stars. I gave the other one 3 stars. Yeah. I'm optimistic for a better reading month in May. I have not set myself a TBR or anything because I never stick to them. So hopefully I do a bit more. Hopefully I read more. So I'm doing very well so far this year. I've read quite a few books, so I'm on track for hitting my goal of reading 50. I just need to make sure I just keep at it and try and read more than 2 books a month. So thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in my next one, whatever that may be. And I will leave a few links down below for you to check out. I had a reading vlog for reading The Baby Dragon Cafe. It also featured a little bit in my reading challenge video where I challenged myself to read for 2 hours for 7 days. And as always, you can check out my Instagram, Laura_loves_books. I have Twitter, X. I also have a TikTok. I've started a story graph, which I don't really know how to use that, but you can also add me, follow me on there. I don't know how it works. I don't have any friends yet because I've just created it. I'm getting my head around it. You can also add me on Goodreads as well if you want to keep up with what I'm reading. And yeah, hopefully see you all in my next video. Bye!